Hello guys, welcome to this lesson on majority flush for accumulation and distribution in reversal trading. And specifically, we'll be looking at our two main price action manipulation strategy called the UR1 and DR1. So UR1 refers to up reversal 1, DR1 refers to the down reversal 1. So this is actually two of our out of our 8 to 10 main price action manipulation strategy that we will be using, right, when we trade the markets. All right, so let's go into the criteria, right, for up reversal 1, UR1. So for UR1 is basically what we call reversal trading, right, reversal trading. And this can happen anywhere in the chart, regardless of where prices is with reference to the 50 SMA. So you don't have to check where price is with reference to the 50 SMA to utilize this strategy called UR1. And it's basically what we call a sideways price movement, okay? Because of it's like a wave pattern, a big wave pattern or small wave pattern that occurs. That you want to see is a kind of false top scenario to go short. Okay, so over here I will lay out the criteria first, and then we'll go into the examples later on, which will be much more clearer when I go into the examples. Okay, so the entry rule is that you want to see a final price movement, right, as majority flush to force the LP. Okay, so this is actually a false top scenario. We call this a false top scenario, and because it's a false top scenario, we'll be looking at one of our EXE, which is a bearish EXE, to close at or below the LP within 4 bars. Okay, so and you're going to, after you take the short trade, you're going to project your target, right, based on your desired risk reward. Okay, and how do you enter the trade is based on the sweet spot entry. So do refer to the previous lesson, earlier lessons on sweet spot entry, right, on how to place your stop loss and also the zone to take your entry. Okay, so in this lesson we mainly focus on recognizing the criteria of the UR1 and DR1. Okay, take note that all reversal structure UR1 or UR or DR structures requires this to check this thing called a majority flush. Okay, so the concept diagram is something like this. Let me just go into the concept diagram to share with you. See, okay, so like I mentioned over here, right, so your UR1s looks like this. Basically you want to see that a swing high. When I draw a dot line, a dash line like this, it just means the same as me drawing a line. Okay, sometimes this is my habit. I would draw a dot dash line, right? Okay, they are the same. It just signifies a kind of price movement. We want to see that prices has this flush up, right? We call this the majority flush to force the top. When I draw this pattern, draw this symbol, it's like a half rectangle symbol. It means that there is a for stop symbol. Okay, so we want to check for this thing called a majority flush that force the top. Okay, so this is basically the concept diagram of UR1, and within 4 bars, we want to see within 4 bars, we want to see that there is a bearish EXE that goes above the LP. Okay, within 4 bars, that there's a bearish, after that there's a bearish EXE that closes at or below the LP to confirm the UR1 structure. And take note that we count the first bar that close above the LP, right? The first bar that go above the LP as number 1, and up to number 4. Up to number 4, we want to see a bearish EXE. So our guideline is within 4 bars. Okay, so let me give you a conceptual illustration here about what do I mean by the EXE must close at or below LP within 4 bars. Okay. So let's say that, okay, there is a potential UR1 structure. Okay, and the first bar that goes above the LP, let's say we call this the first bar. We call this the number 1 bar. And let's say the next bar is a doji, and The second bar is a doji, the third bar is also doji, right? Right. By the fourth bar, we want to see that there is one of the bearish EXE that close at or below this LP line. It could be a markdown bar, a bearish markdown bar, a bearish ice cream bar that close at or below the LP, and this will confirm our UR1 structure. And once it confirms our UR1 structure, we will enter short based on the next bar within the short sweet spot area, right, to go short. And of course, I can give you some illustration, like stop loss will be somewhere at the high of the bar. Short entry will be, of course, as mentioned earlier on in the video, it will be in the sweet spot zone around the halfway point to the low of the bar. In this case, it's anywhere in this yellow zone. And then you're going to project your target, right? So stop loss is here, your entry somewhere here, entry somewhere here, right? Your stop loss somewhere here. You're going to, let's say you're aiming for a 1:2 projection target. Okay, you can use a SPY Excel sheet to do a projection, okay, to find how many shares to short, and this will give you your target, let's say 1:2 risk reward. Understand? So again, our methodology in SPY Trader, we first identify the structure, and in this case the structure is a UR1 or DR1 structure, and then we look for the EXE signal. One of your EXE signal, if it's a short trade like this, is one of your 4 bearish EXE, right? Your bearish pin, bearish markdown, bearish ice cream bar, or even your bearish false strike can occur. Okay, and then once it's done, you do your risk management, right? You calculate how many shares to short, where's the sweet spot entry to short, where's your stop loss, do a projection, and so on. So it completes the entire trade process. Okay, and there's this thing that I wrote over here, this thing called majority flush, right? So it's not just as simple as price going up to do a false top. Okay, we also want to check that the price that's going up, that actually goes a rally all the way up to the false top level, is what we call a majority flush. So how do you actually check for this thing called a majority flush? Is this, okay? So let's say price, you identify a possible LP level on the left of the chart, okay, which is that point Y. Okay, so let price rally. Let's say price, I'll probably draw in green. Price rally, right? You want to see that the price that falls the top, okay, this is the price movement, right? This green is the price movement, upside price movement that falls the top, which is the point X, right? The key swing high level, which is your LP level. Okay, so you name this key swing high level as point X. So that's the second step. So you want to see a kind of a rapid price movement to force the top. That's the first step. And then second step, you mark out the LP as point Y. Third step, trader will look right. You look right for the lowest point in the UR1 structure. In the UR1 structure, you always look right. Even for DR1, you always look right. Okay, for UR1, you are looking right for the lowest point. Okay, and you mark this lowest point in the chart as point Y. And imagine there's a vertical distance between X and Y. There's a vertical distance. There's a vertical distance between X and Y. The flush, right? The rapid price movement, right? The rapid price movement. Okay, it may not be a flush up bar. It could be a series of green bar, as long as what we want to see is that the angle of the price movement is steep. It may not be a flush up bar. It could be a flush movement. That means it's a rapid price movement that is steep, that falls the top. And the start of the flush must begin before the 50% line. So imagine the 50% line of the X and Y here. It's like a car. You want the car to accelerate beyond the 50% mark. So the greater distance that the car accelerate, the more powerful and potent the flush up to force the top will be. Okay, so we have a rule that we want to see that the start of the flush must start before, which is this green zone here, before this 50%. That means it must start to accelerate before that to force the top. And once it satisfies this criteria, we consider this a majority flush. Okay, so take note that in our UR1 structure, we are looking for majority flush, bearish EXE that falls the top within 4 bars. Okay, because this is a scenario where market makers chase for stop loss, right? So we're going to take a short trade, even though the is a flush up just before that. Okay, and so over here, okay, I'm going to run through the UR1 and DR1 criteria, and then we're going to hit the examples very, very shortly. Okay, so just let me run through the examples, because if now I go into the examples, you'll probably ask me what is the criteria, right? So let me just run through the criteria, and we'll reference back the criteria when we go into the examples. There's a couple of examples at the back. Okay, so for DR1 is the opposite of UR1. Again, it's a sideways price movement. Okay, we want to also check for majority flush. So like I mentioned, UR structures or DR structures requires the checking for majority flush to force LP. So in the DR1 structure is a kind of false bottom scenario. To force the LP. The EXE, which is a bullish EXE because it's a false bottom scenario, you're going long, right? So it's going to be a bullish EXE to close at or above the LP within 4 bars. So our methodology guideline is up to 4 bars. Why not 5 bars, 6 bars, 7 bars, or 10 bars? Because if we have unlimited guidelines, right, traders may go beyond a certain number, which is not healthy, right? The key thing about trading is to set a guideline, so you can follow that guideline based on this a methodology, right, that you trade the markets to set certain guidelines to be consistent. Okay, you find that up to 5 bars works for you, you can go up to 5 bars. Sometimes if I have no other trade do and I see this setup that's so nice but it's on the 5th bar, I may still consider it because the structure is still very nice, you know, it is still very significant and distinct. It's just that the number of bars is not ideal. I may still take on the trade even if it's within 5 bars. But for a start, you can just follow the guidelines here, which is up to 4 bars. Okay, so the strategy concept model is something like this. Let me just draw it out for you. So a DR1 looks something like this, right? Okay, of course this is your swing low, which is your LP, right? Your LP, which is a swing low, and that we want to see a false bottom, okay, a false bottom scenario. Okay, let's say the bar that, okay, let's say the bar that goes below the LP, right? You count this as the first bar. Let's say it's a bearish bar that goes below the LP, you count this as number 1. Let's say number 2, number 3. By number 4, you want to see by number 2, 3, or 4. By number 4 maximum, based on our guideline, you want to see a bullish EXE that close at or below the LP, right? That will be your signal to take a long trade. And of course, if you put in the sweet spot entry, will be somewhere between the yellow zone here, right? The high of the bar and the 50% of the bar range will be your entry, right? Will be your entry. Sorry. Would be your entry. Stop loss will be, for me, I always put at the immediate swing low. Let's say this is the immediate swing low. This will be my stop loss. So you have your entry and the stop loss. You can project your target, right? Let's say it's a 1:2 projection. Okay, so again, structure, EXE, sweet spot entry, projection of target. Okay, and of course we're going to check over here for whether there is the existence of majority MF. In short, it's called MF for majority flush. Okay. Alright, so checking for majority flush is the same, but now it's like a mirror image. So again, let's say there's a false bottom over here in the chart. Okay, let me just go in, use the red color. There's a false bottom over here in the chart. Okay, trader will mark out the LP level, the LP on the left that's being forced as point X. Okay, so how do I know all these points whether it's the LP level? take note that when you open a chart, the first thing you do is to draw all the key LP levels. Remember, join all the key LP levels, and when prices start to flush down and force this level, this is when you start to be aware that, oh, the market is possibly doing a DR or UR formation. At the start, my advice is to focus on, let's say, a bullish or bearish FS strategy that we covered in the earlier video, or just focus on UR1 and DR1 first. Okay, we have many other setups that we cover in our price action manipulation strategy. Okay, so you can just focus on one pair of strategy and be good in that first before you move on slowly and surely. Okay, so let's say you mark this as point X, and the third step is to look right for the highest point. So just now to check for majority flush up, you look for lowest point. Now you're looking for the highest point. You mark this point as point Y. Again, you imagine there's a vertical distance between X and Y. Okay, there's a vertical distance between X and Y. Then there's a 50%. Imagine the 50% mark in between. You want the start of the flush down, right? To start anywhere before the 50% line. Again, this shows that there's a momentum that goes on to take out all the stop loss, to induce a certain kind of panic, right? Imagine there's a flush down that comes in, right? To induce the kind of panic. And if there is, if the price movement is steep, start being steep before the 50% line, we say that it's a majority flush down.